Hey y'all. Y'all know, oh, I'm clicking the wrong damn. Okay, here we go.
Let's talk about real life issues, love and relationships. Let's have a good time with the missus, yeah. Celebrities. Let's talk about current events. Let's talk about things you don't see on regular TV. So join in on PGT time. PGT time. Tune in on PGT time. PGT time. Come join us on PGT time. PGT time. Join us on PGT time. PGT time. Yeah.
DPS saying that person went inside of the school that's right behind us. They say that he was clothed in some form of body armor, had a rifle of some sort, was firing indiscriminately. And then it was when law enforcement went inside of the school that 18-year-old returned fire and has left us with this horrendous situation that we have here. We know for a fact that two different individuals within law enforcement were injured today. The latest that we've heard is that they're going to be okay. The same cannot be said for many others in this community. You look around here, there are families who have been sending their loved ones to this very school behind us for several generations. This is such a small, tight-knit community here, and it has been utterly devastated by today's events. Marnie?
There are no words, Robert. The gunman firing indiscriminately into what we suspect is a room or an area full of children. I did speak with a lieutenant with the Department of Public Safety just a little while ago, and he wasn't able to tell us much because it is an active investigation. But I'm curious from witnesses who you have spoken with there on the scene. The one question I asked him is, where did the gunman enter the school? Have you been given any indication from witnesses, neighbors who came out and heard the commotion, or have you seen on scene the open door where he may have gotten in?
No, we've not heard that from any of the witnesses that are on the ground. That's still a question that lingers here. What we have heard from witnesses is the sound and the aftermath of what happened here, because I mean, again, you mentioned this before, Marnie. This was supposed to be on the precipice of summer. This is 2 days before a lot of these children were supposed to be going off, having summer adventures, making memories with some of the other young ones that are in this community here. That's when everyone was thinking about here, that innocence that is so pure. And just like that, that innocence has been tainted by what has happened here today. That's the hard thing that so many people are reeling with. This is that you talk about these young children who many people on this street that were standing on, they have some form of connection to the people that were inside of that school. That's the hardest pill to swallow here, is that it happened here, Uvalde, Texas, small town of just 16,000 people. And you look around here, aside from the scene behind us, so quiet, so peaceful, but not at this hour. Marnie?
Everybody knows someone. I did hear the press conference from police earlier, Robert. They said that school is finished for the year. The school superintendent spoke to the public, said we will not be having kids return. There is counselors available for those families. What more can you tell us about the resources being put forth for those families tonight who are either directly connected to or just live in this community?
That is an emphasis that we've had law enforcement make so far is that they are committing a lot of resources, especially when it comes to mental health and taking care of all these people who have witnessed it directly, witnessed it secondhand or thirdhand, or just been somewhere in the neighborhood here trying to help as many of those people as possible. So that is a big concern for law enforcement. We have heard from the governor of Texas, who says that he's committing as many of his resources as possible to learning more about what happened inside of that building. We know the Texas Rangers are going to be involved in this. That is the investigative portion of Texas law enforcement. Texas DPS, of course, a large presence here. That's the other aspect as well, Marnies, is that you have so many different agencies that have been involved in this. That is why you see this flurry of misinformation that's going around between Customs and Border Protection. You have Texas DPS. You have the local law enforcement here on the ground. Now, all of a sudden, we are starting to get all that information channeled to more direct sources.
Yeah. Most important thing is to get it right. All right, Robert Sherman, live in Uvalde, Texas for us tonight. Robert, thank you. We'll be checking back in. There are plenty of people who work very hard to try and prevent a tragedy like the one we saw in Texas today. Jeff Slotnick is one of those people. He is joining us live tonight. Jeff, you and I have spoken many times over the years, usually following events such as this, and it is hard to comprehend, but certainly in the last few years, mental health has risen to the surface and warning signs. And while we don't want to speculate on what may have happened prior to the shooting today, speak in generalities about what we should be looking for in people, red flags that should prompt us to do something in situations of concern.
In my experience and what I've studied in other shootings that have occurred in the United States and overseas, very frequently the shooter has communicated with somebody that they are going to engage in activity that becomes discovered later in social media posts, in chat rooms on Facebook, and so many other locations. What we need to do as a society is be aware of these and not just treat them casually. When we identify that kind of behavior, we have to be proactive in reporting that and getting that to the attention of the authorities. Not speculating, but in past incidents, I can tell you that this was not something that this individual thought about doing today. They've been thinking about it for some time. And I'm sure as facts become aware and the investigation continues, we're going to find out that there were warning signs and that this may have even been preventable.
You know, it was shocking for me to hear, and I don't know, get your reaction here, Jeff, the president throwing out some numbers of shootings on school campuses in the last decade or so. We'll have to verify this, but he said close to 3,500 shootings since Sandy Hook in Newtown, Connecticut. This is what you do for a living, making our schools safe. Are our schools any safer than they were 10 years ago? Because a decade later, we've got another mass shooting and children killed.
Well, I think there's been a lot of private sector initiatives. There have been standards that have been created. There's best practices from Secret Service and Department of Justice. But how many school buildings are really taking physical security seriously, that are providing training beyond, active shooter, what do we do, and evacuations and things, but really identifying suspicious behavior, having adequate physical security systems at schools where you just don't walk in the front door of a building. You can't walk into any building in corporate America without being stopped first. We need to start looking at, in my opinion, we need to start looking at national requirements and regulatory requirements for school physical security. There's a lot of great information out there, but we have fire regulation for schools that's absolutely strict. It's embedded in every construction document, every remodel, in school plans. And I believe we haven't had a child die in a school fire since 1953. This is the new fire. This is something we need to deal with. We want to talk about legislation and action. It's my opinion, we need national standards on physical security in schools that need to be incorporated nationally, that are going to make real changes in locking down school buildings, but keeping them open and welcome for students at the same time. But nobody should be able to walk right into a school building.
So what would that look like? What would the change that you'd like to see?
Well, in my experience, when I've done assessments of physical security for schools, one of the first things I see is, you walk in the front door of the building and the first thing you see is a sign that says, all visitors report to the office, and the office is 100 feet down the hall. I'd like to see a primary entrance to the school that all children and visitors come through, staff, and that other doors to buildings are secured during entry time, and so that we control entry into the buildings, because that's where it starts. The further we can push out those concentric rings of security to the parking lot, to the street, and not have that first ring be at the office in the inside of the school, we're going to go very far in saving lives and preventing incidents like this.
There's always more to be done. Jeff, as always, we appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you, Marty. I appreciate you, and really sorry for everybody tonight. This is really heart-wrenching to see this.
Couldn't agree more. All right. As we wait for answers, the investigation is just beginning into what happened today in Uvalde outside Robb Elementary School. I want to bring in correspondent Kelly Beeson now with what we've learned over the last hour, particularly as it involves the gunman. Kelly?
Well, Marty, there's so many questions that law enforcement are now working to answer. At a press conference earlier today, officials did say they believe the suspect acted alone. Hours after the attack on Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas, questions remain about the motive of the suspect in this case, 18-year-old Salvador Ramos, who allegedly killed his grandmother before heading to the school.
The FBI has consistently reported that 75% of school shooters have been bullied at school previously.
Ellen DeLaura is a former professor at Syracuse University who says some young people who act out in this way have decided to adopt a radical philosophy. For others, it's a way to deal with past trauma, violence or abuse in their home or their community.
They are people who oftentimes have tried to figure out a solution to what it is that they felt while they were in school, and they felt that no adult helped them.
It could be some time before we learn anything about motive, and it's too early to speculate.
Former FBI agent Phil Andrews says law enforcement officials are now looking to put those pieces of the puzzle together by taking photos of the crime scene, interviewing neighbors, reviewing digital evidence, surveillance videos, and social media, lifting any clue that points to motive or any potential assistance to the suspect.
Mostly everything is going to be in a journal or it's going to be in social media. But where you'll find it is where they're writing somewhere that are going to absolutely give you the story of why he did this, because it's not something that's so random. He's ruminated about this and processed it to the point where he couldn't take it, and this is where we end up.
And Thomas says by the end of the week, more evidence will likely emerge to potentially give clarity as to what the motive was in this case, Marnie.
Yeah, if we'll never know. All right, Kelly Beeson, thank you. And we want to remind you we'll have continuing coverage on the massacre in Uvalde, Texas, as the night goes on. We'll have reaction from folks in that community who have been impacted, and we're in constant communication with authorities on the ground. The flags at the White House tonight have been lowered to half-staff after the president spoke just moments ago, saying, "I hoped when I became president, I would not have to do this." Tonight, he spoke to the nation as a father. We will be right back. And a reminder as well, it is primary night in a number
Well, y'all, as y'all can see, oops, sorry, y'all won't go see. But as y'all can see on these clips, on that live clip this was something very, very sad. I wasn't supposed to come on tonight, but after I've been getting so many requests to come on because of this tragedy, I decided to come on. I'm gonna show y'all another clip. Let me see if I can pull it up. I do have my avatar on tonight. I'm sorry, you guys, but I was not all the way prepared for this tonight. So I'm not gonna put makeup and stuff on. Here go a clip. Let me show it to y'all. Share my screen. And here we go. What's up, Jay in the building? We got BG in the building. Alma in the building. We got a lot of people out here, y'all. So let me go into this next one. This one should play a lot better. The other one was actually live, so that's why we was dealing with the buffering. But here goes this clip. And then after this one, we're gonna go ahead and end it for tonight. And we're gonna talk about it more on Friday, along with Terrence Robeson, who will be in the building. So we'll talk about this more on Friday. Tomorrow, I do have an important show with you all tomorrow with a woman whose brother was involved in a hit and run. And she's still trying to get justice after 10 years. So we're going to talk about that tomorrow along with her. So we're going to do this on Friday. But I just wanted to bring y'all some clips. Here's another one.
We continue to track breaking news of the worst kind tonight, the kind of news we wish did not happen. But here we are with a rising death toll and a mass shooting at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. The Texas Department of Public Safety says they told him 18 children and 3 adults are dead. The 3 adults, the shooter, the shooter's grandmother, and a teacher. The shooter is also dead, killed by law enforcement responding to the call. The superintendent grieving with the community.
My heart was broken today. We're a small community, and we'll need your prayers to get us through this.
The school serves students from 2nd to 4th grade.
Yeah, real little children. Governor Abbott is ordering state resources to be used to investigate this shooting. It happened at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde. It's about 80 miles west of San Antonio.
Here's what we know right now. Police say an 18-year-old gunman went on a shooting rampage. The Texas governor identified the shooter as Salvador Ramos. He is from the area and died at the scene. The police department there releasing 2 brief statements today, still not giving a lot of information.
Once we're able to provide information to the families, we will do so first and foremost. Obviously, our priorities is to get information to our families and give them some information. So please bear with us.
Police in Uvalde are saying the shooter acted alone. About 600 students attend Robb Elementary. The school year was set to end Thursday, but all classes have been canceled for the rest of the year.
And just a few minutes ago, President Biden speaking to the American people about this latest mass shooting. Here's what he said.
To lose a child is like having a piece of your soul ripped away. There's a hollowness in your chest. You feel like you're being sucked into it and never going to be able to get out. I ask the nation to pray for them, give the parents and siblings the strength in the darkness they feel right now. As a nation, we have to ask, when in God's name are we going to stand up to the gun lobby? When in God's name we do what we all know in our gut needs to be done?
Such a frightening afternoon for the moms and dads in Uvalde. This is video of the Reunification Center for Parents and Children at a nearby civic center there. Anieli Ruiz in Uvalde tonight, speaking with the families. Anieli?
Hey, Lynn, we're right actually outside the civic center where families continue to gather. Everyone here looking for any information on their children. Now, they tell me they sent them to school and then heard about the shooting and haven't heard any information since then. They tell me they've been to the local hospitals, and some have even contacted San Antonio hospitals, and so far, no luck. But I just want to update you.
Yeah, I got two babies now. That is in elementary school now. My son, his first year in elementary school, which would have been kindergarten, he ended up doing it virtual because that's when the pandemic started. So that entire year he was home. Then this year, he went to first grade. Well, last year. He went to first grade, so he started school right away, August 6th, I think it was, 2021. And now he's going to the second grade, and my daughter is now going to kindergarten. So both of my babies are in elementary school. And when I tell y'all, I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine what these parents had to go through on today. I just couldn't imagine having to go to the Civic Center and just wait and pray and wait and pray that baby come up out of there alive. And it started off with just 2 that they have reported. Now we are seeing up to 20 people killed by this 18-year-old. Now, I'm sure none of these little kids did anything to this little boy. I'm sure. For him to be 18 and they're in elementary school, I'm sure none of them kids did anything to him. So, a lot of the times at these high schools, you know, somebody got into a fight, social media was involved, you know, something. And they going in there and they're targeting the ones that they want. Situations like this, there was no target. I'm just going in there just shooting kids. That's what he did. Like, how can you look at these little babies in their face and shoot them and kill them? That's a lot of kids that he literally looked at in their damn faces and just shot them dead. No remorse. Don't care. BG said very scary. Very scary. You know, people always say, this could have happened to anybody. That could have happened to anybody. This is a definition. This is the true definition of this could have happened to anybody, to any elementary school. They cannot come back and tell me or convince me that this 18-year-old went and shot all these kids because all these kids did something to him. All these kids made him mad. The point I'm trying to make is, if he did this, anybody can just go into these schools and do the same thing. Unless they got metal detectors on every door. Get them on the windows if you got to get them on the windows. The cities and the states have the money. The world, United States, have the money. All these, the money that they gave out, stimulus packages and stuff, they still giving out money. I'm waiting on my $250 right now from my governor that he's giving out to everybody. Y'all got all this money to give us, but y'all don't have enough to put security in all these schools, metal detectors, whatever. Just like that man said, soon as you walk into school, you shouldn't have to travel and go past your kid's classroom to get to the office. The office should be right there. You walk in, you walk to the office. Don't come out that office until you got your child with you.
And the security guard need to make sure that they make it on out the door. They don't need to come. You know, I was upset because this was my son's first year in school, and I couldn't go in there with him and walk into his classroom and stuff because of the pandemic. But guess what? We got used to it. We got used to it. I was saying, you know, they could be doing anything to my child up in there. But guess what? My son is in elementary school. He know how to talk. He know how to tell me something wasn't right. Then we go from there. Everybody don't need to be in these schools. Everybody don't need to be in these schools. We're going to finish this up. Here we go.
You guys with the latest information. I spoke to some parents right now and they tell me they're actually going inside the center right now to provide investigators with some DNA. Now, we also spoke to one of the dads who's looking for his 10-year-old daughter, Jesse Rodriguez. He tells us he's looking for his 10-year-old daughter, Anabel Guadalupe Rodriguez, who's 10 years old and in the 3rd grade.
They didn't have a list for her name in here, so she's not here. So we're going to head on down Hondo and then San Antonio till we find her.
Not losing hope, huh?
No, well, I mean, I'll fill up the tank and I'll look all night if I have to. I got to find her.
Absolutely heartbreaking for all of
If
these
that ain't
families
heartbreaking, y'all.
Here waiting patiently.
If that ain't heartbreaking, he don't even know where she at. All he know is she ain't here. Now I gotta go try to find her at a hospital. Don't know if she one of the people that's dead. Don't know nothing. All I know is my baby is not here. At the Civic Center where they done told us to come pick up our kids. Yes, why were the doors unlocked? If you don't have metal detectors, lock the doors. Lock the doors. I'm telling you, they better get Joe Clark. They better get Joe Clark. Come put them chains on the doors. Do something. Joe Clark said, I ain't finna let y'all back in my school no more. You would not come in here. I'm talking about Lean On Me for those that don't know who Joe Clark is. Lean on me. Y'all would not come in here and destroy the rest of these kids like y'all did before. We finna put these chains on the door. We finna do something. He made something happen. That hurts my heart to see her daddy on here like this. Just sad.
It's been hours since they've heard anything from their kids, hoping to find any information. And of course, everyone here hoping that their kid is not among the list of those who were killed today. Reporting live, Anayeli Ruiz, KHOU 11 News.
Anayeli, just wondering what will happen as the night goes on there.
You know, these parents tell me they're not going anywhere. They need to find their kids. They need to find out what happened to their kids. So if they have to stay here all night, these parents say they're willing to do whatever it takes just to find their kids.
Thinking of absolutely everyone in Uvalde tonight, especially those parents. Anayeli, thank you.
A lot of people are commenting on what happened today. Houston Mayor Sylvester Turner saying lawmakers need to enact reasonable gun control.
The massacres keep coming, and people are dying senselessly. These mass shootings are happening almost every week, and sometimes it's more than one in 1 week. There, you reach a point where you say enough already, and we should have said that years ago.
Governor Abbott ordering flags flown at half staff in the state of Texas. He spoke about the shooting this afternoon.
When parents drop their kids off at school, they have every expectation to know that they're going to be able to pick their child up when that school day ends. And there are families who are in mourning right now, and the state of Texas is in mourning with them for the reality that these parents are not going to be able to pick up their children.
In Washington, D.C., the White House flag was lowered to half-staff. President Biden has ordered flags at all public buildings be lowered to half-staff to honor the victims in Uvalde.
Okay, so I understand honoring the victim. No, baby, you don't have to do that. This was unexpected. My husband trying to watch the game, y'all, and I'm just I don't know. But anyways, y'all, I understand, lower the flag. I get it. But I don't understand. They got parents that's looking still for their kids. Who they don't give a damn about no flag being lower. Whoever lowering the flag, go help them folks look for their kids. Go help them look for their kids. Find out what hospital they in. Find out where are they, period. You know, you want to show that you did something good? No, what would have been good is if you ordered these schools to get metal detectors in their schools. More security. Tell me that didn't happen. Not that we done lowered the flags. We're asking all the schools to lower the flag. No, ask all the schools to get metal detectors. Tell them they don't have a choice. It's a must. Sorry, y'all. I just, it wasn't even supposed to go this long. I was supposed to end the show, but I just had to say this. So here we go.
Uvalde. Also in D.C., Texas Senator Ted Cruz watching the situation unfold. He spoke to reporters, calling what happened truly horrific.
It has happened far too many times. I have been there over and over and over again. I was at the Santa Fe High School just outside of Houston. I was at the Sutherland Springs Church just outside of San Antonio. I was in El Paso at the Walmart. I was in Midland, Odessa with the horrific mass murderer there. I was in Dallas with the mass murderer who targeted police officers. We are seeing way too many of these horrific mass murders. And we need to devote far more law enforcement resources to stopping violent criminals, preventing these kind of absolute acts of evil.
U.S. Senator John Cornyn reacting with a statement saying, quote, "The shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde is every parent and teacher's worst nightmare. No parent, child, or teacher should ever have to wonder whether it's safe to go to school."
He goes on to say this is an excruciatingly difficult time for the tight-knit Uvalde community and for all Texans as we mourn this terrible tragedy.
He continues, "My heart goes out to those in the hospital receiving care and to the loved ones of those who lost their lives. As a parent, the pain they must be feeling is unimaginable." One footnote here, John Cornyn has dropped out of the speaker lineup for this Friday's NRA convention here in Houston. An aide tells us it has nothing to do with Uvalde. He informed the organization before the tragedy happened that he would not be able to speak due to a scheduling conflict.
This investigation means all hands on deck. Former FBI Supervisor Denner Franks speaking with KHOE 11 about what agents are tracking down about this suspect.
They're just going to try to get a full scope of everything he's been doing in the last year or so, and they're going to access every bit of media and social media they can to try to get a picture of what he has been doing.
Now, something making this more difficult for first responders, the size of the hospital in Uvalde. It is a relatively remote town, 80 miles from the nearest major medical center in San Antonio. We spoke with Dr. Brent Cazzini from Texas Children's Hospital about how that can impact the response.
Oftentimes in these horrific events, and in particular in elementary school age children, there aren't many survivors because of the severity of these injuries that they sustain on scene. And so unfortunately, not many of them survive these injuries. I think, first, I think of this response and this incident and how horrific this is as a parent of a 4 and 7-year-old. And second, I think of it as a clinician and what it must be like to be in that hospital that received those victims from the scene. Recognizing that not all hospitals are fully equipped to take care of a large scale mass casualty incident like this. And surely, dealing with the ongoing pressures of the pandemic, the mental health crisis, all of these other things, our emergency centers are definitely pushed to the limits already. So adding something like this on top of that is just only more salt in the wounds.
And it certainly raises more questions about school safety. HISD Superintendent Millard House releasing this statement on the shooting. He says, quote, "Our hearts ache as we share in the grief and pain of Uvalde, the community there. Robb Elementary children, teachers, staff, and families experience what no one should, let alone at a place we trust is safe for our children." He also says the safety of our students is our foremost priority. The Houston ISD Police Department is evaluating safety measures on our campuses and will adjust accordingly. He says, "I want to ensure the HISD community that we are taking this very seriously." HISD police have reached out to Houston police, and there are no, they say, active threats currently in Houston.
And Conroe ISD saying, quote, "Our hearts are broken for our neighbors in Uvalde. As a proactive measure, we will have a highly visible police presence the next 2 days." They say all Conroe ISD officers will be on duty and on campus. They're also calling for help from Montgomery County deputies and the Conroe Police Department.
Before we go, another update, the latest we know at this hour in this shooting. Texas DPS reporting 18 children and 3 adults have been killed in a mass shooting that includes the suspect. Texas Governor Greg Abbott says it is believed the shooter was killed by responding officers. The Uvalde school police chief saying the suspect acted alone. Right now, they are obtaining background information on the gunman identified as 18-year-old Salvador Ramos. Things they're looking into, of course, motive, the types of weapons he used, and whether he was legally allowed to have them. We're going to have a lot more coming up on KHOU 11 News at 10.
We thank you for joining us for this digital news update.
Yeah. This is so sad. This is so sad. And like they said, one of the saddest parts about it is that the hospital wasn't equipped for so many. I mean, we talking about a lot of kids. And they're already dealing with the pandemic as far as COVID. They got people in there for that. They got people in there for all types of stuff. And then all these kids and 3 adults come in. And like I said, it's reported somewhere that now it was up to 20. So, I don't know. Y'all. We're just gonna have to continue to pray for these babies out here. Pray for these people out here that's doing the killing as well. Pray for them because they need it just as bad. I mean, I don't know why they feel like they have to kill people. I don't understand. Especially kill some babies. He could have just pushed them down. That's all he had to do. Push them down. He could have gave them a whooping. But instead, you shot and killed these kids. For no reason. This is a no reason. Sometimes we see clips and they just tell us that such and such was killed and they got murdered or whatever. And come to find out they was in some drug mess or they was a gangbanger and stuff like that. But the news didn't report it. This right here, they don't have to come back and say nothing. Nothing. But tell us what was going on with this boy. The boy dead now. Why do we need to know? Because we need to bring awareness to other folks that got kids that may be thinking about doing this type of stuff. We need to make sure that they see the signs, are aware of the red flags, to try to, get them some help before it get worse or before they do any type of damage like that. So I'm finna be out of here, y'all. I'm finna go to bed. I'm finna pray very hard. Pray for our city, pray for our state, pray for our United States of America. Pray for the world, y'all. Pray for the world. Each and every person out there. All right, so we out of here, y'all. Bye.
Thank you for watching.